All right, sorry, your teacher Candice today has an emergency, so we have to teach for you, all right, just for today. So let's get started, for today's topic. Today we're going to have some exercises about writing, and then we're going to have some interesting topic about code, about some interesting words, and also so-called diction. So let's start with the diction. All right, so we're going to obviously we're going to extend for 12 or 13 minutes here. So first thing we're going to talk about diction. So Alistair, so can you tell me do you understand the word diction at all?
I don't really have an idea.
Okay, you don't have an idea. So who knows what's called diction? It's not dictionary, remember. How about Bori? So what is a diction? What does that mean?
Diction is like when we are really pronouncing words.
Well, it can be that meaning, but in our class today, we're not concerned about that meaning, all right? It could be something related to the pronunciation, but the main meaning that you're using in reading and writing is not about pronunciation. Even if it could be, but most likely it's about the choice of words. In other words, it's about wording and your language. All right, all right.
All right.
Yeah. So diction is extremely important, right? Because language, obviously, very important, and our wording is so important that without it, we cannot put on any line of words on a piece of paper or a computer. So that's why extremely, extremely important. All right, now let's move on and do some exercise. So obviously, we all know metaphor, similar, the kind of figure of speech, but those are just very small part of diction. All right, but we today wanted to learn one literary device, also figure of speech, also called that. All right, so it's called apostrophe. All right, apostrophe here is not the little race, comma saying. It's a figure of speech or literary device. So first, I want Estella, can you read the definition, please?
Apostrophe is a figure of speech in which some absent or non-existent person or thing is addressed as if present and capable of understanding.
All right. Did you ever use this one before? Did you ever use apostrophe as a figure of speech before?
Like once or twice.
Okay, once. Okay. All right. So you said in your class, or under what circumstances did you use it?
Well, my friend and another one of my friends were having a writing competition, and then one of my friends were like, well, let's write "Hello Darkness, my old friend," and then we started writing a bunch of weird things.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So yeah, that's a fun. All right. So, but yeah, so when we learn, we don't have to be in the class. We don't have to be in the training class. We don't have to be in class like ours, but you can learn anytime. All right. So here are some of the examples about apostrophe of a form of personification. All right. So to use some non-existent person was saying, just like that, it exists, just like it's really there, right? It's capable of understanding, we're talking, we're behaving. So let's just have this one. Jason, can you read this one? Of course, obviously you know that. Just can you read this example of apostrophe?
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky.
I'm sure you probably heard this, the little children's, a lullaby, the children's song before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you realize it's called apostrophe before? Did you know that at all?
No, I don't know. It's called apostrophe.
All right, thank you. All right, so yeah, It's most likely people don't know what it is, but just use it because this is a little song. Probably millions upon millions, children were taught, when grow up from the toddlers, or even baby years. All right, so that's very fun. Now, next one is like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Obviously, darkness is not a person, it's not a thing, it's not even an animal. So obviously, it cannot talk with us. But we just think it's it's a person, it's a figure, right? So that's why it's something like that. So it's very interesting. So now, let's move on and do a little exercise. I want you to write a short paragraph. It's not a sentence. I want you to write a short paragraph using apostrophe, all right? And see the examples. Imagine anything that's not lifeless. Imagine it is having a life. It's like a person or even an animal that can talk and saying can respond to your behavior, to your talking, to your conversation, etc., etc. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. After that, we're going to have the discussion, editing. All right. So we're going to have some exercise together. All right. So go ahead, everybody, write 5 minutes. Okay, let's start the discussion. I know I only have 4 of you finished. We still have 2 of you not done, but we don't have much time so let's just get started. The first one by Ryan. Ding ding piano. I've come to play you again. Oh, the musical note you make just like drops of rain falling from the sky. All right, so the whole thing is good. Only no matter what, you have to start with the uppercase. And also make sure you have proper, punctuation marks, all right, proper on a space, no matter what. All right, um, so here, okay, and also if you're starting ever a new line, all right, so this one is okay, yeah, you can keep that, okay. Oh, I'll come to play again. Oh, the musical noted you play, you make just like string. All right, so here's the thing. Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, when you start a new one, still it's a new line. New line doesn't necessarily the uppercase, but because you will start a new sentence in a poem, you always start with the uppercase, all right?
Yeah.
And also the musical note, you say music noted. Do you mean the musical notes?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, okay, or the notes, all right. You make just like drops of rain falling from the sky. Yeah, so it's very poetic language, very beautiful. Only some of the minor errors, and also playing with piano, just making piano like a friend, having a conversation. A very dynamic, a very good example for this apostrophe, figure of speech. Good job. Now let's move on to Jason.
Okay, can you wait a minute? I sent 2 paragraphs.
It's in another one. Do you want me to actually add the
So-
second one to the first one? You want to put them together, or you want to use the second version?
Put them together, okay?
I'll put them together. Okay, that's fine. Let's just copy. Are you done already? After the second one, you're finished, right?
I have already finished and I have sent to you.
Okay, I understand. Let's put it together. Thank you very much, Jason.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's just put them together. All right. All right, so it's a significant competition for Peter. He has prepared for it. Normally, we say prepared for it since 2 months ago. All right. So, and he will show his result very soon. We all hope he can win the first prize. He is a supportive person at class where he often has friends, other people who are in need. All right, the writing itself is not bad, but let's take a look if it's an apostrophe. Peter's really confident with himself, and he said he will give on unique speech. All right, so he's really confident. He said, because you use the present tense, always use the present tense, unless you already use some past tense. But you didn't do that. Just use the present tense because you have been using present tense for the whole writing. All right. Do you understand, Jason? Because the whole writing you're using the present tense, so keep using it. All right.
Okay.
He will give on. It's not on. Okay. The U is not a vowel sound. It's actually consonant. It's not a vowel sound. That's why you don't use on, but use a. You understand? A unique. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's you is kind of confusing, all right? But people say you is a vowel, but no. When it's pronunciation, when we use a or an, not decided by the letter, but decided by the sound. The sound is you. You is not a vowel sound. It can be. Some people say it's a half consonant and half vowel, but actually it's not a vowel, right? So that's why you had to use a instead of an. Do you understand, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why it is. But the only thing here, it's not apostrophe. In other words, we're not talking to somebody or is like an animal or like a machine or like a musical instrument. We have no talking to any people, any non-people saying you don't have that.
You understand, Jason? That's not apostrophe. You understand?
Yes.
All right. So just remember, you for example, you can say he's making a speech. And it's like he's standing in front of hundreds of people, and he's talking to the microphone, saying, "Hey, microphone, today you're like my buddy. Let's work together and win the game or win the speech." That would be apostrophe. You understand, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, in this short writing, there is no machine or device or any other non-life item that Peter is talking to. And thus, it is not a apostrophe, right? So it's not apostrophe. So here we should use on, because apostrophe, that's a vowel sound. That's what you use on apostrophe, right? So example, you can make Peter talk to the microphone and say, dear Mike, all right, my old buddy, let's work together and win this game. All right, something of that nature. That will make it very typical, very good, very powerful apostrophe, because we're making the thing like a person. All right, so that's why this sort of example, if we do some change, but otherwise, so to pay attention to this. All right, so now let's take a look at the else there. So Bob was very curious and sociable. All right, so trust me. All right, so Alistair. Hello, Alistair.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, so one question here, one thing. Don't use Bob as a name. I'm not saying Bob is wrong, but Bob is used too much. I have billions of Bob in millions of writings, which is making it a cliche. You understand?
Yeah.
Change to a different name. All right, change to a different name. All right, for example, if you want to use something related to Bob, you can say a Bob Star or Bob Bar, whatsoever. Give it a special name instead of the name everybody is repeating every day. You don't know any? You see what I mean, Alistair?
Yeah.
Yeah, just make the name attractive and remember, people can memorize it. So anyway, I give an example. It doesn't mean you have to use this example. You can use any other name. For example, Edward. For example, Jonathan, or probably Liechtenstein, or any name is interesting that people can remember.
What
right?
about Joe?
Yeah, you can use, but Joe is a very common name. It's too common, just don't use it. Use a name that people will remember, that will differentiate from other people's writing. You understand? Alistair?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Let's move on. All right. Let's just say Bob Star. All right. You believe it's not a normal name, but because when you actually read those novels and stories, people are not using the normal name anymore. People are creating names. So that's a trend of writing. All right. Anyway, Bob Star was a very curious and social boy. That's very interesting. The strangest thing about him was that he liked to talk objects as if they were sentient. All right, so yeah, that's very interesting. It's not talk, objects. It's like talk to, right? We need a to here. All right, right, Alistair?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, talking integrated furniture too. All right. So, well, don't use to, because if you say to, that means furniture is not object. They obviously are objects. So that's why you can say he talked to objects as if they were sentient. For example, he talked and graded furniture. That would make furniture part of the general objects. Then make better sense. All right, Alistair?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just make sure the logic. Writing is about meaningful logic. Writing is about skillful, usage of different structure, parallel structure, single structure, monotonous structure, then also about writing different words, using beautiful wording, but in grammar, correct grammar, good spelling, all these kind of things. But logic and reasoning is also a very important part of also, so that's why we should, even if you're writing something creative, the logic should still be there, right? For example, he talked and graded to furniture sometime instead of to. So people saw him, or we can say people saw him talking to furniture, talking to a bed, or talking to a chair, talking to anything that's not talkable, but he was really like talking to real people. Sometimes that will be very strange and weird, so make a story very interesting. All right, so let's just make it like here, like a real. Let's make it like real sometimes. Let's move on and take the next one. He would say like, Land, how was your day? And hello, couch. Very nice, good example. Even though Bob's, let's just change the name of Bob. All right, so in anything, any name. All right, just not Bob, not Joe, not John, not Mary the girl, not Eileen, not Amy. Just change some interesting name or some name that people didn't use so much. You know what I mean? So it's not just for Alice, it's for everybody. All right. Bob Star's parents knew Lance couldn't talk. They just let him do this around the house. Yeah, so that would be good because the parents know that, but still, even if they know that's not talking, you imagine that talking, that would make sense. All right, so that's a good example if you change some of the minor issues. All right, Alistair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for the effort. Now, next one about Estella. Sam, okay, even if Sam is not so good a name, but Sam is Bob, in today than Bob, all right, because
I didn't really have any other name things.
Yeah,
I used up all the 9 names.
Yeah, but Sam today is better than Bob because today the younger generations are using Bob hundreds of times more.
I realize.
Yeah, but anyway, if it's in your grandparents' time, probably Sam was a way too much used name, but today is fine. But we still can have other name, but just remember that. Sam gazed upon ancient willow. Yeah, it's very interesting, saying ancient willow. From its life lesson branch,
Take away the actual apostrophe.
Yeah. Life, you mean lifeless? That's not 2 words of 1 word.
Oh, okay.
From its lifeless branch, drapes of rotting leaves dangled before me. Yeah, I like this writing, especially the word dangled, the very, very dynamic word. I like this very dynamic verb. All right, so remember when you do the writing, all right, 2 types of things will make your writing more colorful and dynamic. One is verb, obviously. Another one is what? Estella? It's adjective, all right? Adjective.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 types of things. You should pay more attention. You want to make your wording more interesting. One is your verb. That's the number 1 thing we want to pay attention if we want to see which type of word can we pay more attention, make your writing stand out. That's verb. Another is adjective. All right, question in the future, we're going to do a lot of exercises. All right, so beforehand, will you ever leave housely again? Question Sam. All right, so that's really, really nice because almost like, talking to a grandpa, grandma, they're like dying and, the target wants them to survive or live longer, much longer than they actually can. That's a very nice, touching part of the story. Doesn't matter now your children will be safe with me. All right, so that's a kind of saddening, but also very moving. All right, so it's almost like talking to a grandma or grandpa who's like almost dying. Yeah, that's a very wonderful story part of it. So, and let's see here. All right, so, and also, Sam smiled, holding up the pouch of seeds. Oh, that's a funny part, actually. So that's almost like a little hilarious because, you know, in the first of several sentences, kind of saddening, but with a pouch of seeds, we're seeing the hope for the younger generation, just like holding a baby in front of the grandpa, grandma. So it's really nice giving people hope. So the last sentence is almost, making the reader burst into laughter, right? So even if they may not, depending on who you are, but yeah, so it's very fun and giving people a sense of hope. So that's why I like this last part very much. So generally speaking, it's a very, very successful apostrophe usage and having a very hilarious and humorous usage of the hope, you know, bringing sentence. So which is really amazing. All right, good job. Let's move on to see if we have other writings still coming. Yeah, we still have Carol. Yeah, let's see. Carol wrote a very long writing. Let's take a quick look here. Let's move other things out. Hello, Carol.
I sent it in 3 times because I
Oh, 3
corrected
times. So which one you wanted me to
yeah.
actually use? The last one?
The very bottom. Yeah.
The very bottom. Okay, good. So there lives an old lady in the lone isolation of the forest. I like these two expressions, the expressive words, lone isolation. Lone isolation, very expressive, very clear, showing the loneliness, showing the lonesome, showing the internal, right, singled out, you know, kind of feeling. So that's a very good start. She lives a simple life by herself, content with her lifestyle, but some days the first is too lonely. All right. That part is really, really good. Some days the first is too lonely. When we actually it touch people's heart because we feel people like to have a peaceful life, a tranquil life, a life people can enjoy their own time. But sometimes people still feel they want to have a company. They want to have company. They want to have friends. They want to have somebody who's with them, or even may not be a person. So that's the thing, really making the touching part. On those nights, she talked to the picture of her deceased husband. Very sad. That's very sad, but could also bring very wonderful memories. Right? So that's the thing. Remember, anytime you want to write something saddening, something sad, it could also be the great time for you to bring the tearful, you know, story. So just remember that don't waste your opportunity. If you have some great moment for tears, right? That would be the time people would read it and read it again and again. So hanging above the fireplace, that's very wonderful. All right, and especially the picture above the fireplace. It's really amazing. She always starts by asking, how are our kids up there? Oh, that's very sad. You know, she is living longer than their kids. That's how you want it, right, Carol?
Yeah.
That's how you design it. Right? So that's like a story, you know. So the mother living longer than even the kids. That's something. All right, amazing writing stuff. And then follows the question with the retelling of a short story she heard as a young. Okay, so here's the thing. The language here in this part, you can make it a more concise. It's a little bit repetitive, redundant. And then follow the question with remove that part. All right. With a short story, she has heard, and she had heard countless times as a young girl. All right, so that will make it straightforward, but also, you know, giving it a sense. The story is long. It's almost like a as old as the time, but you know, also as new as the young baby girl, something of that nature. So you don't have to say retell the young story. Thousand countless time is telling, retelling again and again, but you are using a different wording. You know what I mean, Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a short story she has heard countless times. Um, instead of as, we better say from a young. Okay, so since being a young girl, so that will make it. So and follow the question was a short story. She had heard countless times since being a young girl. All right, yeah, that will make it sound more natural. But actually, I think I like the story. The apostrophe is not just a tool used for the purpose of itself, but it's a naturally embedded part of the touching legend. All right, so that's how we want. So looks like you must have read some story or books, you know, of that nature, you know, because it's pretty much like something you borrow. Probably you learn some ideas from other books or story, didn't you, Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you actually borrow any ideas? Because it sounds kind of course, you probably, you know, I'm not sure if you how many books you read on average per each month on average.
It kind of varies.
Varied. So like, yeah, it could be
Yeah.
like maybe 1 or 5 or 10. So I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, so this part really sounds, some of the books, you know, I read, you know, different books, you know, I read before. It's kind of reorganization of all different type of stories putting together with some saddening part, was also the joyful part, with a tearful, you know, moment, but also with the wonderful, you know, memories that coming alive once again every time she stares at a picture of her ex, her died, her passing husband, or other people in the family. So yeah, do you think you have borrowed some ideas, or just come up on your mind at the time you wrote
I think maybe lone like isolation in the forest. Maybe that was something that
it? Okay.
I just like. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Wonderful.
other than that,
Yeah.
I think
Thank you.
it's
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so no matter what idea you have, no matter drama, it's a movie, or it's just like a trailer, you know, watch a commercial, and get an idea for your writing. It can work, you know, anything, right? Let's see if we still have any submission here. Bori. Okay, so Bori here is a very interesting bar. It's short. I'm not saying short cannot be good. Let's take a quick look here. Bori, I just have one question. Why you submit so kind of late? Is that because you didn't have an idea, or you're not familiar with this kind of apostrophe and figure speech? What's the question? What's the thing that make you slow down?
First is not familiar, and then is try to find a good example.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Good, right? Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, let's take a quick look here. Goodbye, trace of Earth. All right. So yeah, that could be very interesting. Normally, people would say, most people would want to say goodbye, trace, or goodbye, Earth, but fewer people would say goodbye, trace of Earth. All right. So that's something called creative or originality. That's good. So let's just make it here. I want to give a little comment here. Most people can think of trees or earth as a target of apostrophe, but fewer can use or think to use the combination. All right, so that's a good part. So that means sometimes we can just move a little bit further, not even the giant step, probably a very small step, move forward. We can actually make ourselves standing ahead of maybe thousands of students. For example, if we're joining a writing competition, applying to a private school, or in the future, applying to a university, which is not so far away, even you guys are not that old yet. So just make sure you can actually really write, so you can get to right ahead of the general student, that on average your peer, so you can stand out. So let's make a little comment here and make it red. Common play next time. I'll, okay, you said I'll, yeah. I'll common play next time. And also remember, after the period, you always need a space. You don't just put, the period and immediately another letter. You know what I mean? Bari? All right, anyway, Bari, yeah, you understand? Here we need a space. After the period and next space sentence, you need a space. All right?
All right.
Yeah, is needed between two sentences. That's something you have to truly understand that. All right, let's move on. So if you have any dreams, all right, so here, also we need a space. So make sure we'll separate two sections, of the sentence. We can make it true together. All right, so yeah, that's a good example of apostrophe. Even if you compare with other students, you're kind of slow. It may not be that long, but that's okay. It works. All right, so it works. All right. And also don't use the as, obviously use any to use single. All right, so other than that, it's a good job, a good effort first time. All right, let's move on to the next topic for today's class. Let's just say we want to recommend an author. So anybody recognize his face? He's the writer. Is kind of famous among the young readers. So Carol, does this face ring any bell on your mind or memory?
I don't recognize the face.
Okay, so do you know the name Jordan Sonnenblade? Do you know this name?
Any books he wrote? Because if you say it, I probably might
how
know.
about this one? The book After Ever After. Ever read that book?
I've heard of the book before, but I haven't read it before.
Yeah, that's okay. So now
I've never read it.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. So now let's invite Carol to read this introduction of the author and what he wrote for the young readers.
Jordan Sonnenblick, born July 4th, 1969, is an American writer of a young adult fiction. He is a graduate of New York City's Stuyvesant High School, 1987, and of the University of Pennsylvania. Sonnenblick taught 8th grade English at Phillipsburg Middle School in New Jersey for 11 years before he decided to start writing books, debuting with the novel Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie. The inspiration for his debut novel is the cancer-stricken brother of one of his students.
Okay, thank you. So here, he's from New York City. New York City actually is obviously having a lot of good schools, and Stuyvesant, high school is one of the best, so, and they have a lot of, students coming to and going to different kind of Ivy League schools, Stanford, Berkeley, MIT, those type of schools. It's a very famous school. and also the University of Pennsylvania. Obviously, that's a great school, right? So it's one of the Ivy League. So Sonny Blake taught 8th grade English at Pittsburgh Middle School in New Jersey. It's not a Pittsburgh. It's not in Pittsburgh, but in New Jersey. Very funny name. All right. So for 11 years before he decided to start writing books. Right. So some of the books: Drowned Girls and Dangerous Pie. Inspiration debut novel is Cancer-Stricken Brother of one of his students. All right. So anyway, let's take a look at what's his story about. So Ryan, would you mind read this, little page? And if you have any question, bring it up for us to do the discussion. Thank you.
Jeffrey isn't a little boy with cancer anymore. He's a teen in remission. Even though the cancer should be far behind him, life still feels fragile. The after effects of treatment have left Jeffrey with an inability to be a great student or to walk without limping. His parents still worry about him. His older brother Stephen, who has always been Jeffrey's main support system and confident, lost it and took off to Africa to be a drumming circle and find himself. Jeffrey has a little soul searching to do too. He needs to tell Stephen how he feels about being abandoned. His best friend Tad is hatching some kind of secretive, crazy plan which is driving him bonkers. And there's a girl who is way out of his league who thinks he's cute. Who found funny and utterly original after promises, laughter, and tears, and characters who will live with readers long after the story is over.
All right. So what did you find from the story? So what's the thing that make you want to read it, or what's the reason you don't want this story at all? So tell me how you understand this. Ryan.
Overcoming the effects of cancer.
Okay. All right. So are you familiar with the topic of any disease or cancer at all? Do you know any people around your community who had a situation in their family members?
No.
No. Okay. That's good. All right. But it's a good thing to have, people are all healthy around your family or around, the community or the school. Everybody's happy and healthy. But not everybody in every community and every family is all that lucky. We do have some unlucky children, family, some schools, school members. Right? So that's the time people need to care, people need to help, people need to stand out and give their hand, and either by donation or their money or time or effort or anything they can do to help those people who are suffering, people who need help. All right? So that's why reading this kind of books really helping us to understand society, helping us to do the things that we can do. Maybe if it's a very minimal thing, but it can be very meaningful for other people because we give them a support either psychologically or physiologically, financially, or mentally whatsoever. All right, so that's a good thing to read about always. So now we're gonna actually want to learn a bit of something about a little bit of idiom. All right, so of course I know you guys have learned idiom before, but let me ask you a question. Okay, we know idiom, we know proverb, but what's the difference between idiom and proverb? Or are they the same thing at all? So can anybody tell me any difference between idiom and proverb, or are they the same thing? Yeah, Asala, go ahead. What is the idiom? What is the proverb? What's the difference, or are they the same thing?
Well, an idiom is like sort of a saying that we have like used over time, for example, out in the cold. And a proverb is more like a lesson, I guess. It's still like it's like a lesson developed over time, if I'm like not mistaken.
Yeah, you are very
And
right.
that's like the difference. Like idiom is more like of a saying. It can be used for fun. It can be used like in actual formal writing. And a proverb is more like a lesson, and
right.
it's more to like teach someone something.
Yeah, that's very right. All right. So even if it may not cover every single aspect of the story, but it's already very good for a student who didn't actually have systematic learning about it. But it's very good. But one question. All right. So we already know idiom. Actually, idiom, it could be a sentence. It could be just part of a sentence. It could be just a phrase, a couple of words. It may not be a whole sentence. The proverb, it should almost always come with a full sentence, right? Like just now, Estella said, normally proverb is a lesson in there. There's like a moral, a lesson we have learned, right, based on the people's experience for years and years of learning and practicing and laboring whatsoever. So that's the difference between idiom and the proverb. Idiom, like normal, is a lesson, is a full sentence. But actually, any proverb would also be an idiom. But on the other hand, if we go the other direction, that's not true. In other words, not every single idiom is a proverb, but all proverbs are all idioms. Right? So that's the thing you have to understand. Right? So now let's move on and do some exercise. So here's the thing. We have two idioms. These are not proverbs. These are not one sentence. They're not a kind of lesson for us to learn. But we have two idioms. We can probably try to write something with. So let's have actually Bori. Can you read the first idiom?
Crank out, to produce in large volumes mechanically or as if by machine.
All right. So have you ever used or read or noticed this idiom before? Bori?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you. So it's not from the frequency of usage. This idiom is kind of like a low to middle level of usage, in terms of frequency of our daily writing. So that's why if you don't see that, it's not so strange. So crank out is like producing large volume, because it's just like using the crank of the machine tool or something of that nature. The next one, I'm sure probably many people have heard that. Alistair, have you ever used crash course or probably know that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you read the definition?
Crash course, a quick, intense course of learning, especially one which is informal or hurried.
All right, thank you. All right, so crash course normally is like, if you're watching YouTube video or you go to, let's say, a training class that they don't have time for you to just learn for, several months, not even several weeks. All right, so probably just they can give you only a few minutes. That's the time you can call it a crash course, right? Something that just like crash it out, making people understand the basics. You can go and do it. The rest is yourself upon your fortune, your luck, whatsoever you can call that. So now let's do an exercise. Man, I want somebody to read this instruction. Alistair, can you read this instruction of this writing exercise?
Many American manufacturing jobs are transferred to countries like Mexico and China to save the company's costs. Write your response to this using the two idioms. 6 minutes. The wording can be changed slightly when necessary. Class discussion will be made.
All right, thank you. Are you familiar with this kind of so-called outsourcing thing, Alistair?
Yeah, because companies don't want to pay as much.
Okay, and they just source the thing to the overseas labor market. All right, thank you. It's normal, but today, of course, you guys know probably China is kind of separating itself from the other part of the world, so that's why they can have this kind of change, right? So the market, the labor market can be changing to India, Vietnam, or other countries like Indonesia, or probably more in Mexico. All right, so that's a kind of, but still, Mexico and China are still part of the big, market share, in terms of import and export, about manufacturing, outsourcing. So that's why I want you to write this little interesting topic about this topic. I want you to use these two idioms. Make sure they're related, naturally embedded. Like I said, don't just make it stand out like something, a weird ball or something like that. Make it like a real part of the writing. Right? So that's why using the two idioms. So I'm going to give you 6 minutes. Don't write it long because I only give you 6 minutes. But you have to use this two idioms, both, not one. All right, both in this little writing. All right, go ahead and start. And then after that, we're going to have a discussion. Okay, let's start the discussion. The first one by Ryan, for example, if you crank out the manufacturing job in America to countries like Mexico, and China, it's not chain. Remember, let's just take a quick look here. So we can have a good example for it. First, remember, crank out means you produce a large volume, crack course, and something quickly you learn. So then we compare the example used by Ryan. If you crank out the management job in America, remember it's a large uppercase. In America, so countries. All right, so no, that's not the right way to do. First, it's not like chain, it's like China. It's not like this. Spelling. The chain is actually a usage, name you're using in French. It's in French language, so it's not chain. Chains, although in French and other language it could be right, but it's not English. And then the country saves a lot of money. Mexico and China might crash course, since they rushed. All right, so some of the usage are not correct. But let's take a quick look here. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
Yeah. First, in the beginning, don't use the for examples in there, because unless you have started with some knowledge about some other thing, you don't want to use for example. All right. Yeah. So if you crank out the manufacturing jobs in America, to country. All right, so it's not like you crank out the job in America too. It's not sourcing. That means sourcing. You know what I mean, Ryan? You don't say crank out the job to, but you say you crank. But you say if you can, you should remove that. Remove. You remove, or you outsource. That's called outsource or source. Simple word. If you outsource the manufacturing jobs in America to countries like Mexico and China, and then we should have a comma here. Then the country saves a lot of money. But you should put a but, all right? So, but the other countries crank out. The other country crank out tons of jobs. All right, so that's how it is. Right? The other country crank out tons of jobs. Do you understand, Ryan?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Mexico and China might crash course.
Yeah.
It's not a word, it's not a verb. So that's why you don't say might crash course.
Understand.
Yeah. So they might learn through crash courses, right? Mexico and China might learn through crash courses, right? Since they rush through, right? Since they rush through, right? So yeah, that will make better sense. All right. Anyway, if you change that, would be a good way. So for the other things, we're running out of time. So, but remember, yeah, we have to extend for 12 minutes because we're kind of late. All right. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's take a quick look here. All right. All right. So, along with the transfer, Along with the transfer of a manufacturing job, the companies could also crank out on the manufacturers because of the lowered price. Here, so the language is kind of not very smooth, right? So, along with the transfer of manufacturing jobs, right? So that's the thing. You can stop. You can have a period, it's a comma here. The companies, right? Could also crank out the manufacturer because it's lower. You don't say instead of saying crank out the manufacturer, you don't say that, right? So you could say the companies can also crank out instead of the manufacturers, you can say crank out millions of new products. Crank out millions of new products. So that's what it crank out because of the lower price. You know what I mean, Estella?
Yeah, okay.
So, though newly hired workers would probably only get a crash course introduction to the system before beginning. All right, so here the language is a little kind of tricky. It's not very correct. Though newly hired workers would probably only get a crash course introduction. Okay, have a comment. The system before beginning work. It's not a full sentence. All right, would even though the hire would probably only get a crash course.
Like on the system, like they would learn about the system.
Oh, let's take a look. The newly hired workers would probably only get a crash course introduction on the system before beginning. All right. Then you cannot use though because you use though. It's though it means it's a clause. It's not a main sentence. You cannot use though. All right. Other than that, if you don't have a main clause, you cannot use though. You understand? You cannot stand by yourself. All right, Estella? Do you understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. The newly hired workers would probably only get a crash course introduction. Okay, then you can use that. All right, so on the system before beginning to work instead of beginning work. That's kind of strange. All right, so I wonder how it will change the stock market. All right, so yeah, you can see it's related to stock market also. Yeah, but other than that, using crank out, using crash course, both correct. Good job. Next one about Alistair. I learned how manufacturing job works through a quick or a weekend crash course. That's correctly used, right? We learned that all right, so in the beginning you say I learned, then you say we learned. Choose one instead of two, both. Either I or we, but not both. All right, Alistair?
Yeah.
So that's why I suggest you probably just remove the I, because that's not normally an individual saying to know. It's a group saying because people do the learning, on the group basis. We learn how manufacturing works through a quick and weekend crash course. We learned that companies in the United States all have all kinds of product that we consume every day. Labor is very important to manufacture these products. So it's very important to manufacture this product. All right, so let's just make it simple. Labor is very important. Just remove that manufacture because you have used this word for at least one time, but you didn't for two times. You don't have to use that again. Labor is very important for these products, obviously, as people would understand, they know what it is. You don't have to say to manufacture. That's totally unnecessary. All right. This is why goods are sent to countries like China and Mexico, where they can be manufactured with lower costs. All right. Less labor laws in these countries allow workers to crank out products, crank out much cheaper product. That will make it more sound, because that's the countries are simply on no labor force, so no labor law, so people can use the labor as cheap as possible. That's why less labor law in these countries allow workers to crank out much cheaper product. That would make better sense. All right, Alistair?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now let's see. You have other. So let's this one by Jason. When the jobs are transferred to another country, not culture, right? Now other countries such as India, Mexico, and China. Remember, all right. So Jason, when you have when, that means there's a clause. You must have the second half of the clause. You can't just say when something happened. You don't have the main clause. That's wrong. All right, Jason?
Okay.
So you should make this comma, this period into a comma, and say when jobs are transferred to other countries such as India, Mexico, and China, then you should start with this. All right. These countries, not countries, all right? Always remember, these countries,
All right.
workers are countries. You don't have a second comma, all right? These countries, workers will crank out some basic things as fast as the crank out, and they can learn. All right, so.
Oh, yes, I write it wrong. It's crash course.
Oh, okay. As fast as the crash course tells them, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll crank out some basic stuff as fast as the crash course tells them. All right, so tells them. And they can learn the technology from it. All right, so when the jobs are transferred to other countries such as India, China, Mexico, these countries workers will crank out some basic things as fast as the crash course tells them. And they can learn the technology from it. All right, so of course the company from US will pay less money as a killing two birds with so here if you use the proper company will pay, it's then you are linking two clauses together. You need something, not just using a comma, right? Instead you should say so, right? So make it working as a conjunction. All right, so need a conjunction here. That's like a conjunction. You want a conjunction. You understand that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll pay less money. So it's a killing two birds with one stone's choice. All right, so yeah, that would be a very good example about using the idiom or proverb. All right, so anyway, it's good writing. Other than that, you just pay attention to the minor things. All right, Jason?
Okay.
Thank you. And now next one by Bori. Let's take a quick look and finish today's class.
Teacher?
Yes. What's your question?
I actually found that I misspelled interest, so I actually resended another one with the interest correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Let's take a quick look and do the correction when we get there. I think Americans should have same money to try to do it themselves. All right, so don't you do that? I think it's a lousy usage. Don't ever use it. All right, so Americans should save money to try to do it themselves. Themselves. Not fools. They should have a crash course for the workers so they can crank out their own product. Right, that's right. After that, American products will have more competitiveness. All right, so we'll have, instead of saying more competitive, you should say having high competitiveness. You know what I mean, Bari? High competitiveness. All right.
All right.
Yeah, and so they will have more interest. They will actually have more interest. Actually, it's not best to use interest. You can say profit. So if you have more profit, right, they have more profits. That will sound really, really good. Have more profits. And remove that. Oh, sorry, not remove. So this one should be removed. All right, so have more profits. All right, that will make it better in your sense. All right, after that, probably will have high profit, so they will have more profits. Okay, that's it for today, and I hope you guys have learned something. And next time, we probably should have the regular teacher. All right, let's finish the class.